The LG G5, the futuristic phone which released with much excitement and expectations in the Mobile World Congress last year. The phone, as I like to say, was ahead of its time. With the G5, LG had tried to do something which no other phone manufacturer dared to do. The G5 was the first proper phone to have a modular design where we could just swap modules to enhance the phone's functionality. The G5 was also the first phone with a rear dual camera setup, a feature which is becoming increasingly common in all modern phones. So that was a lot of firsts. Then why did a phone with such innovation end up being such a failure? The answer? The execution. Let me start off by saying that I personally use the LG G5. It's my primary phone and I like it quite a bit. This video is merely decoding the fact why the G5 failed. With the G5's successor, the LG G6, scheduled to release tomorrow at the Mobile World Congress, I thought, why not analyze the fact why such an innovative phone fared so miserably or so horribly in the market? I'm Vandit, and this is why the LG G5 failed. Like I said earlier, the execution. The G5 was packed with awesome ideas, but their execution was below par. Let's look at the modular design. Google's Project Ara was going to be the first mainstream phone to come out with a modular design, but the phone never went into production. It was LG on the other hand who went ahead and made this modular concept a reality. And yes, the idea to do so was very good and we were all waiting to see a modular phone, but LG's modular concept was flawed. In order to change modules, one had to power off the phone, yank open the bottom and fix the new module in, and power on the phone again. This seemed like a very tedious task, one that people neither had the time nor patience to do. Secondly, the modules themselves, or as LG called them, friends, were quite disappointing. The VR headset and the 360 cam had nothing to do with the modular concept. They were separate accessories. The B&O sound module called Hi-Fi Plus wasn't available in most countries. The camera grip, though a little useful, seemed to offer very little functionality. On top of it all, these friends costed quite a bit, something which the consumers didn't want to spend after spending close to a bomb on the phone. The G5 was priced at 53,000 rupees when I got my phone. Besides this disastrous concept, the G5 had a lot of more problems as well. LG's UI was decent but too bland. The absence of the app drawer was annoying as well, which compelled most to install a third-party launcher. The user experience of the G5 wasn't too great either. The haptic feedback was bad, and after using the phone for a few months, I started noticing a little bit of backlight bleeding and also occasional image burn or ghosting or whatever it's called, where fragments of the previous screen show up on the screen. Even the Android 7 Nougat update hasn't come for the G5 yet. It's still running Android Marshmallow. Another issue was that whenever I swapped modules, the time and date of my phone would mess up and an alarm would go off for no reason whatsoever. Apart from this, there were also several cases of users experiencing boot loops where the phone endlessly restarts, although I personally didn't face this issue. Up until now, it may appear as if the phone only has problems, but let me assure you the phone has a lot of pros as well. The biggest one being the camera. The camera on the G5 is absolutely amazing. That is the best part of the phone. It's got one of the best smartphone cameras out there. The dual camera setup on the back includes the primary 16 megapixel lens plus an 8 megapixel lens right beside it. The 8 megapixel lens is a wide angle lens giving a 135 degree field of view, which is really cool. It adds a sort of perspective normal cameras don't offer, and it's really handy in getting those wide angle shots in, say, a stadium or a concert. Plus, adding to that, camera features including both lenses gives really good shots. Switching between the two lenses is really easy as well. You just need to zoom in and out to switch between the two lenses. On the front, there is an 8 megapixel shooter, which is equally very good. The lens captures quite a bit of detail and gives really nice shots. The pictures from the G5 are very crisp with a good color reproduction and contrast. The low light mode is very good as well. The amount of detail the camera captures is insane. You can just zoom in a picture to see how good the camera clarity is. The G5 also captures 4K video with optical image stabilization. So the camera is like an A-rated camera.
Other specs of the G5 are pretty impressive as well. The G5 after all was LG's flagship device, and LG did load them up with all the latest specs of the time. The phone is really fast even after quite a few months of usage, although there are periods when the phone lags to some extent. The audio through the headphone jack is really good too, so you don't actually need the B&O module. There are IR blasters on the phone which can be used as a remote control, but it's not very accurate.
The only plus of having the modular design is swapping batteries. Swapping batteries is very convenient on the G5 and it's really handy to have this feature on it. Several times I found myself swapping batteries when I most needed that extra battery. The battery itself on the G5 is actually very small with only 2800 mAh of battery capacity, but on normal usage, I easily get through the entire day. Talking about the look and feel of this phone, no matter what anyone says, I really like the design of the G5. It's quite simple and elegant. The 5.3-inch screen is of the appropriate size, making one-handed usage very comfortable. And the phone feels really good to hold in the hand. The fingerprint sensor is at the right place and works fast. The phone is pretty light as well. However, the phone, though made of metal, is coated with some kind of paint or something, which makes it seem like plastic. That's one complaint I have with the look. The G5 might not have done very well in the market, but it did bring with it a few innovative features which can be improved to come out with some cool products. Like what Motorola did with the moto mods, they took the modular concept forward and made it easier to use. The moto mods are also more useful. The G6, however, will ditch the modular concept due to its big failure in the G5. But I do hope that all the limitations of the G5 are covered in the G6. And I'm looking forward to LG providing a quality user experience with its new flagship this year. Even after all its pros and cons, the G5 is still a great phone to buy. And after its price falling down to 33,000 rupees, I feel it's a bargain with a phone with an awesome camera, high specs and durability. The specs on the G5 are still among the best that smartphones are offering today. The G5 is certainly better than any of the Sony Xperia phones and can easily compete with the likes of the Moto Z or the OnePlus 3 or 3T and maybe even the Samsung Galaxy S7 to some extent. The G5 is much more than its modular concept and shouldn't just be judged on its modular failure. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. Do share your thoughts on the G5. How's your experience with it? Subscribe to Symple Reviews for all the latest updates from the Mobile World Congress and more tech videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.